are on, and thank you everybody for so much love on our first podcast, and we are back on air now. I'm so excited.
Yes, we are. Here we are yet again. You're here to watch us in all of our annoying ass glory.
Yes.
Well, I'm annoying. She's great.
Welcome back to We Are Still Kids, and today's gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah, today's gonna be interesting in two ways. First of all, you probably can't see where we are, but we want to give a shout out to the Burlington County Library for allowing us to film this podcast here. I know last week we said we were going to be filming in my new apartment, but we are still working on putting that together because I'm going to let y'all know 1,400 square feet is a lot to film. So probably the next podcast, which will be what the next one we film is
next week.
Next week, yeah. So there'll be there'll be one more because it's February. Yeah, it's February. So yeah, that makes sense. So probably like the fourth podcast will probably be at my house then. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah. It'll be
a couple more.
It'll be great. We gotta get that IKEA furniture.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We gotta get on that Wayfair.
Well, I just wanted to give everybody a heads up first, like a little trigger warning. We are going to be talking about consent and different like sexual assault situations and things like that in this episode. So if it is too deep or too heavy for you, you can go ahead and click off. We'll have lighter episodes and lighter situations.
We will also be talking about the significance of the fact that it is Black History Month, or as Kanye calls it, Black Future Month. And we will be talking about some of like the historical significances, maybe like segueing in between both, because I think that there's a lot of stuff culturally that sort of blends into both. And
we could definitely give like different aspects of that.
And we're gonna talk about it. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be great. We're gonna do the dig. That's the best thing I could say. We're gonna do the dig.
Well, I think we wanted to start off by going over like how it is Black History Month and Happy Black History Month. I think everybody's focused on like Valentine's Day, but they don't always focus on Black History Month. So I wanted to make sure that we shout it out on this podcast.
We're gonna talk about the mad fucked up things about Black History Month. It's in the shortest month. You share it with like 5 of the holidays.
Yeah, facts.
And like, here's the truth. Black history is made every day. And it's made by those that are big or small. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that. But with this month that we have, it is important to use Black history, especially for children, as a way, not that there should be any children watching our podcast. I mean,
facts.
Unless, you're a cool ass parent. And I had to say ass because that's what we do.
But definitely not children friendly.
But sorry. I made a beverage for our podcast, and she's just gonna diss me left and right about it. So just be ready. Just be ready. It's a piss poor beverage. I usually do better than that, but that's just
it's really bad. But anyway, keep going.
It's not that bad. She can't handle anything, and it's not like her or anything. It's just that it's like kombucha, so it's kind of like she just can't really handle it. It is basically kombucha. Black History Month sort of acts as a really good foundation for those that are interested in learning about the culture and a lot of the historical significances that have happened for Black people and African Americans as a culture, right, and as a people. And it's important to acknowledge the foundations of those things, as well as maybe some of the contributions to regular day society that individuals who we celebrate have, of color, who maybe through history have sort of been thrown to the wayside, but now with the advancements of technology and the knowledge that brings can really come to the forefront and really show their significance within not just American culture, but I think all over the world.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I'm going to applaud you for that. That was amazing. That was an amazing explanation.
I'm just a poetic brother. Somebody give me the snaps. Give me, we in the poetry song. You gotta give me the snaps. You gotta give me the, she can't snap. She can. I can't snap. That's because I don't have ashy hands. But that's just.
I don't have ashy hands.
No. You don't have ashy hands. You're good at snapping. I grew up with never having ashy hands because people were like, and it's smooth. It just sounds like skin. on skin. Doesn't have
Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that our podcast definitely kind of portrayed Black History Month in a good light, because again, it's not talked about enough, and
it's overshadowed by y'all having sex on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And President's Day.
Yeah, Valentine's Day was interesting. It's I call it the no Instagram day, and I'm gonna tell you that because half of those men that show up with girlfriends on Valentine's Day
They're in your
are
DMs.
in my DMs 3 days ago. So like, I'm gonna be. But I digress. I keep to myself. I'm gonna keep to myself. But yeah. So Valentine's Day is a weird holiday for me, especially since coming off of recent breakup. Well, not recent. It's been 4 or 5 months.
Look,
but.
I think the significance of we're even outshadowing Black History Month by talking about Valentine's Day.
Yeah, let's not.
But no, like I think it's important to say like Valentine's Day is kind of like I didn't do anything for him or her all year. Let me try to do something significant, like kind of day. Like if you're really in love with your partner, or if you really value the person who you're with, no matter. I don't like to put labels on things, but if you truly love somebody, right, and every day is Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Thanks.
And it doesn't need to just be that significant. I would say for those that are single, as Danielle is right now, and I have been before in my life, I think Valentine's Day could also serve the purpose of self-love.
I agree 1,000%.
You can be your own Valentine.
And I totally was.
And I think, listen.
I totally was.
Listen,
honestly,
you just had to look in the mirror. You were like beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm smart.
Oh,
I'm
stop!
sexy.
That little girl is so cute.
Yeah.
Are you trying to quote that little girl?
Yeah,
on TikTok?
I'm smart.
I'm beautiful. I'm smart. She's so cute.
Yeah.
But I just genuinely feel like
she has all the ingredients.
love is an amazing thing, regardless if it's
Onions,
a relationship.
Stop.
Stupid.
That's a big word for Elmo.
Shut up. I feel like love should be spread no matter what. Like, you're not even just in a relationship, like your coworkers, like your mom, your dad. Like, love should be a universal thing and a universal language, and it's not. And I feel like you can use Valentine's Day for so much more than just a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I'll also say this. I think I've never liked Valentine's Day, even in a relationship. Here's the reason why. I got denied asking people if I could be their Valentine like so many times when I was a little kid. Like, I'm not even kidding. My parents used to give me like this, like, I remember when like Star Wars Episode 2 came out, and my parents gave me like the Star Wars Episode 2 like candy Valentine thing. You know when you used to write on those? Right? Like the little things, right?
Yeah.
You used to hand them out to people in your class. And I remember like I handed it out to this girl one time. I don't even remember her name, but I just remember like
in Jackson?
What?
In Jackson?
No. I used to go to a private school.
Oh.
And a Christian private school. But there was only 12 kids in the class.
Interesting.
So you didn't know that about me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So because there's only 12 kids in the class, everybody can talk shit about you.
Kids.
Yeah. So I used to always be like, why is it always the private school? What does that mean?
Keep going.
What does that mean? I think this kombucha's getting to your head. But anyway, so she told me straight up, no, I will not be your Valentine.
That's me.
I was so mad because I gave her like
You always say yes.
I gave her like the Padme Valentine too. Like it's the most romantic Star Wars movie. And basically she told if I remember correctly, actually, it wasn't just so I gave her like the Padme one separately.
Yeah.
And I had the Anakin one. But then they had one where it was both of them together on the same little card thing, and I gave her the one with the both of them together.
Aww.
And I showed her mine, and then I was really good at this as a kid. I don't remember her name though, which is really terrible. Or actually, you know what? I do remember her name now, but I'm not gonna tell her. I was like 8. Yeah. And I was like, no, you should be my Valentine. And she was like, no. She was like, no, I don't ever want to be your Valentine. Like,
dang,
ever.
You guys should reconnect.
We did reconnect. That's why I said, oh yeah, I do remember her name. We actually did reconnect now. She's like married and like everything like that.
Oh,
like, she's really, I think she like went to school to be like a preacher. Which is like really cool.
Yeah,
like, that's
really
different. Yeah. Significant. Like, so shout out to you.
Yeah.
If you're watching, you know, shout out to you.
Your no to his Valentine really catapulted your life. You know, you got married, you had a good job.
Yeah. I mean, it catapulted my life as well. I mean, like
it was his first rejection.
It was not my first rejection. I had many rejections before that as a kid. I thought as a kid that I was like a natural Casanova. Like I thought that I was like the smoothest guy ever. I don't think people say that I'm smooth now, and I'm like, that just happened.
I wouldn't characterize you as smooth. I just think that you listen. There's a difference.
I though?
Yeah.
Do I actually listen?
I definitely think you do. You listen to what people are trying to say to you, and then you genuinely answer what they're asking. You don't answer to something that's already in your head. So, you know what I mean? Like, you know how sometimes you're talking to people and you're only thinking about what you're going to say next instead of what they're actually saying to you?
Oh, like scripted, like kind of shit. Yeah, I think as I got old, I used to do that more as a kid. Like, I used to be mad scripted because... And actually, this is great because it actually kind of segues into our conversation about consent. You know, I always had like very open parents, but like I never really like knew how to like talk to girls, or like I felt as though I didn't know how to talk to girls, or I didn't know how to talk to the opposite sex or anyone I was attracted to. So I spent like a good couple of years like kind of being like, yo, like I think I like tried to get like my like way to talk to girls through like movies, and like that was definitely not the way to go, like at all. Like, I mean,
you learn.
Yeah, like you make mistakes, and you know, luckily I have empathy as a person, which I think that's what the world needs. I think that empathy allows you to be able to be improvisational in your response. And I think now, like I think more so now than ever, like I tell more people now that I love them than I did when I was a kid, obviously. And I think those people know like where I come from when I tell them that I love them. You know, I was telling.
Yeah, why is that such a weird conversation to have when, you know, it should be an easy conversation. Like I should go to tell all of my friends I love them and it not be a weird thing.
Because I think that right now what's happening is shit is so complicated for people with their expectations and their ideas of love.
Yeah.
I tell my father I love him all the time. I've told my brother I love him. I tell my grandfather I love him.
Yeah, love is a big word in my family.
You know, yeah, love is big.
So it's always been so easy for me to say.
And like, you know, like it's all about like the action that you take and like what you do like in that situation. Like, and I feel like people are so worried about intimacy these days because we have been, you know, I think as a society, like we've been taught to test. You know, like we don't, you know, education is not about critical thinking anymore. Like education is about teaching the test.
Right or wrong and testing.
Right, and I think that because we've been taught so much about testing, our idea is that failure is not a lesson, which is what this whole podcast is about. But failure is a hindrance on society. Like failure is like you being left back. And I think that what's happened is people have
adopted that.
Right, and they've put that into like their love life.
Their life, their intimacy.
Yeah.
And it's like if they fail, they can't fail, so they're gonna do it and do it to the best of their ability any way that they can.
That's why people,
regardless if it's right or wrong.
That's why people date the same people.
Facts.
You know how many like women I literally tell like, yo, you are literally talking to the same dude. Why is this not working? Because you're talking to the same dude. I should run like a hitch dating service where I literally tell people like you're dating the same dude.
They're gonna do the 2-step.
Ain't got no pizza. They got food dirt. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Get out. Like this is like, but for real, like just dating the same dude. Like you know, like you know.
I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that. Like I feel like girls or guys
y'all date the same people.
You get kind of complacent in a way because you're afraid to branch out because you've been hurt so many times.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't think it's a fault of anybody's to get hurt. No. I think it's a lack of respect on both sides in a way, because it's a lack of respect in yourself. It's also a lack of that person's respect.
But also too, we're human beings, and in this society, we're naturally prone to like, well, you can't have. You know what I mean? And almost the thought of wanting what you can't have is like, there's like something about it. There's something alluring about the idea of like wanting something that you can't have. You know what I mean? Like you don't want restrictions. Like you don't want that kind of stuff. That being said though, you know, for people to be in love, for people to be together, you have to really like
Respect.
You have to understand that like you have to level up that person's thresholds just as much as your own.
Mm-hmm. And they always change too.
Yeah,
they're never always the same.
Because we're ever evolving as people. Like no one stays the same.
Like something could happen in that middle of that relationship that could cause that person to close back up or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you have to respect those boundaries and those changes.
And you have to be knowledgeable of realizing that doesn't mean like don't be honest about how you feel about something. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's nothing wrong with telling a person, at this point in time, this is how I felt, mm-hmm. or anything like that. And that doesn't mean that it's happening right now. It doesn't mean like there are times when like, with people who I talk about, I can say, I even tell people about stuff when I'm thinking about things in the blink of a second, because we're human and we're flawed, or we're human and we have those situations.
I think that's where that comes.
There's nothing wrong with telling people.
I think that's where that comes into play, like that disconnect between like casual sex and waiting till like a perfect relationship to have sex. Because if you don't have that respect in casual sex or that relationship, it doesn't work. And I feel like people are too afraid to, have that casual sex situation because they don't know if that person genuinely respects them for them or has empathy to them.
The truth is like when it comes to sort of like casually linking with somebody or anything like that, I think it's important to you are going through like a trial and error, but that doesn't mean like to just let like to let sort of the steps of consent especially like get lost within the situation. Mm-hmm. And look, I do believe that the ideas of like consent can be I think like I understand that like misinterpretation can happen and stuff like that, but like there's really no excuse for somebody to, especially when somebody's like verbally telling you that this is not what they want, to sort of overlook it. Are you okay?
That's some shit.
Did you almost choke?
That is some shit. Okay, I'm back.
It's some shit?
Yeah, that's all.
Are you okay?
That's so bad.
Why don't you just drink more of it so you can just get it over with?
Yeah, no.
Just drink more of it so you get it over with. Just drink, literally.
I did not mean to.
Just drink more of it just to get over it.
Go.
I'm almost done.
Yeah, but you're never mind.
I'm a what? I'm a what?
I kind of got inspired from this Instagram post that I had saw. I think 2 days, and I reposted it on my stories. I thought it was very, very important. It talked about how consent is important no matter what kind of relationship you're in. You can always say no to your significant other, however long you've been together. If you don't feel like it anymore, if you had already said yes, like there's so many situations where we tend to get ourselves in like uncomfortable positions and we think we can't say no at that point, and that is so not true.
And that's true of men or women too.
Yeah, like
it happens.
I finally feel like I've learned this because I feel like I was always that person. Like I'd always put myself in like uncomfortable positions and would never say no for this, that, and the third reason. And in these last recent relationships, I started to do that. But it's not ever the saying no part that bothers me. It's that awkward tension after the fact of you saying no. I feel like there should never be that awkward tension. You should always be with somebody that understands why you're saying no, or like wants to understand why you're saying no. Like they could be like upset or frustrated, obviously, whatever. But
I mean, listen, awkwardness is a thing, and like it's a part of life, and it's like it's gonna be there.
Yeah, I don't think you ever really get over it.
Oh, that's a whole discussion for another day. Like, you ever like lay in bed and like sit there and go like, damn, like I can't believe I did that in like 7th grade?
No.
You never do that? Like, will you ever have like a thing where you're like, damn?
I barely remember 7th grade.
I know. It's just it was just a
like in the past.
Like you ever like have that thing where you think about something in the past, it was mad fucking awkward, and you literally sat there and you were like, damn,
not that far back, but yeah.
I can't believe I spilled the baked beans all over somebody. Like, you know what I mean? Like some shit, something like that.
But
she didn't like the voice. That's why I went from sexy voice to sounded like I should be in like Forrest Gump too.
Everyone's gonna think I judge you so hard. I don't judge him. I've just had so many years of Drew that I'm like,
she's like, please stop. But she wants me to actually keep going. See, that's not consent.
No, that is not consent. That's true. That is true. I've been in.
Anyway, that's not really funny, but it is true.
Like I've been into certain situations that I've gotten myself into, and they haven't been the best, and being vulnerable about them on this platform is something that I want to do. And I feel like it would create a safe space for other people to be vulnerable. I can't do it when you make that face.
What? I'm listening to you.
That's hilarious. Anyway, so I feel like if you get yourself into an uncomfortable position and you feel as if the odds are stacked against you, or you know that you were in the wrong in the first place, it's never your fault if something bad happens.
Exactly.
There's always two roads, and there's always two people in that situation, or maybe three, or whatever the situation calls for. And I feel like it has to be said, because victims are blamed way too much in sexual assault situations. And not every consent situation has to be a sexual assault situation.
Right.
It's like, that's just like the ladder of the situation. But
it's a very sensitive thing. And these situations, listen, we're not going to say these situations can't happen to men, because
they do.
I have been in a couple of situations that have been just like that. And I can say that, like, especially when it comes to consent, at least for me as an individual who's gone through it, like I always wanted to know, like, especially for these situations when they get to a point of like you being like, action being put upon you that is malicious, and malicious action and malicious intent being put upon you, you definitely have to speak out. You definitely should be honest, because in any situation, I know we like to talk about society and saying that, like, we don't really matter, but there's a balance between mattering and not mattering. Like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, the government trying to program you to freaking, to control your brain with like nanotechnology, you don't matter that much. But as far as like a situation where it's like somebody trying to take advantage of you, like, you are the main character of that story. Yeah. And it's important for you to know that you are the main character of that story. Agreed. It's important to know when to kick in and sort of play those roles.
I feel like this is kind of correlates to what happened to me, because I'm just going to say like a broad definition of what happened to me. So in college, I was casual with this person for an extended period of time. I think it was like 4 or 5 months. It was a long time. So we had gained like a respect for each other, or so I thought. And it was one night after a party in college, and I was significantly intoxicated. Not an excuse. Like, you can go into a situation intoxicated and, it's not all your fault. So I was significantly intoxicated. Weeks prior to this person wanted to, include somebody else in the situation. And I kept saying, no, obviously no. And then this night particular, we had, normally done our casual thing, and he went to go lock the door, and he let somebody else into the room. I was highly intoxicated, and then I felt as though where I'd gone to school and the status of these people kind of outweighed my decision, because if I were to go and tell somebody about the situation, then I wouldn't have been believed, because this person had so much status over me, and they also had a certain, I don't know if I can say this on the podcast, but they had a certain status over me. So I felt like my opinion in that situation wouldn't have mattered.
You can say whatever you need to say.
No.
You can.
Yeah.
If you feel as though it's the right thing to say.
I went to an HBCU. So I'm white, and I went to an HBCU. So there's a lot of, I guess, stigmas about that, because I didn't want to be that white girl trying to bring down an educated black man, if that makes sense. And that's like a hard thing to say, because a lot of people are going to take it the wrong way, but I did not want to be that person. So I kind of had to act like it was okay and act like I did it on purpose, and I didn't. And it wasn't until recently that I genuinely called it what it was, like sexual assault. Yeah,
we had a whole conversation about it too.
Yeah.
Like, it was like one of those things where we, I remember like telling you, like, I was like, I remember being like, I don't think that's. Yeah. So it's definitely a hard pill to swallow, and there's a lot of different variables that go into it. I loved where I went to school, but there are different things that I don't love about it. And one being the fact that I felt like I didn't have a voice in certain situations because of where I went to school and how they were in a frat. So,
in that particular school, the frats ran everything, and like they had so many people above them and with them and like on their line that like there's no way I would have won that case or been believed in a certain way. I would have just, like I said, the narrative would have been scripted as though I was trying to bring them down in a certain way, and that's definitely not what was happening. So I just decided to, you know, like go the easier route and not say anything. But I feel like at that point I should have stood up for myself. But there were a lot of things that happened before that with like, you know, my softball team and stuff. So I was a vulnerable person at that point, and they took advantage of that vulnerability and like that lack of self I had. So all this to say is like, you always matter no matter what situation you're in. Don't ever think somebody's too big or some situation is too big. Don't ever take the easy way out, because I feel like I suffered a lot more because of that easy way out in certain situations. And consent is so important, especially because I was with this person for 4 or 5 months being casual, and I felt like I couldn't say no at that point, and you could always say no. So I loved this post because it really reminded me of like that situation and how I could have changed the direction of it really quickly. But I kind of gave into that I couldn't say no situation. So yeah, that's kind of how that correlates.
No, I mean it's I mean, you know,
it's a heavy situation.
Well, like I said,
the first time I've ever really like talked about it out loud.
Yeah, it was the first time that I had even heard about it too when you told me, because I think we've told each other, like, especially when doing a podcast, it's incredibly important to be honest with each other, even prior to like putting this together. Yeah. And so, you know, I really commend you on being brave enough to have that discussion.
Thank you.
Because especially today, like a lot of stuff that happened to me was like when I was like a kid, you know, and I definitely had no idea or like a self-identity, you know, everything was, you know, action figures and all that kind of stuff.
That was worse, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but it's like as an adult, and as an adult as a young adult trying to find yourself in the world, right? I mean, we still kind of give it to some of the peer pressure of society, especially a patriarchal society, right? We still give into the ideas of, you know, well, I don't want to be seen as this, so this, you know, and I don't want to deal with the stress of that, or I don't want to deal with this. You know, I've had friends who've been in crazy situations that, you know, of not just consent, but even beyond that, like stuff you hear about like in the news and stuff. Yeah. And like, you know, it's important also too that us as individuals that go through this, especially now, and especially women, are allies to them in communicating with them that we have their support no matter what decision that they make, you know. And I've had a friend who, you know, went through a situation, and I told them, you know, they didn't want to do anything about it, and I respected them for not wanting to do anything about it. You know, I did feel like it was important for me to tell that person, you know, especially because we were adults, and you know, we were like in our mid-20s, and I'm still in my mid-20s, but you know, it was not that long ago. Yeah. And I said to her, I said, you know, if you say something, you know, you might be, you know, you got lucky, because in that situation she got away. And like I said to her, I'm like, if you say something, like you could be helping like the next person.
So many people.
You know, you could be helping the next
so
person.
Many people. And that's the kind of angle I want to take with this. Like, take my story and learn whatever you can from it. It's definitely one that I don't mind telling anymore. I'm so far removed from that situation that it doesn't bother me anymore. For so long, I kind of like felt ashamed of it, because there were people in my life telling me that, you know, it was my fault. So, and that's kind of how I felt for a long time, until I really reevaluated my own self-worth and like how that situation went down, and like what consent actually means, and like all of those things. Because at our age, when were we taught about consent? When? Like, I feel like you might be different because your family was very sex positive, but like in school,
we don't. In all things, like we don't really talk about it that much, like in society. Exactly. And I'll definitely say, like as a guy, right? I can say that I got taught this lesson, but I think especially like when I was like in high school, like all that kind of stuff. Like I already said to you, like, you know, I was able to communicate like with my parents, and they were very sex positive. They were very open about that kind of stuff. But there was so much stuff that, like, you know, I think as a kid, you're so afraid to tell your parents because you don't want to, like, you feel as, oh my God, like the rest of my friends don't talk to their parents about this kind of stuff. So
I sure as hell didn't.
Why would I talk to my parents about that kind of stuff? You know what I mean? And
I didn't even talk to anybody.
I did a lot of trial and error in regards to, like, really thinking about it. And then I think when I finally became like when I hit 18, or even like before that, really, you know, I really sat there and I was like, and then I never went anywhere super far or anything like malicious, but I can definitely say, like, I think there's a certain situation that happens where you realize, like, you just have to be yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to give into this idea, as a guy especially, like, you don't have to give into this idea of like this society idea of masculinity. Mm-hmm. Like, the society idea of masculinity is not that you're supposed to be like the dominant figure. The society idea of masculinity is that you have your own identity and your own definition of what masculinity is.
I agree.
And I think that if
you can have feminine masculinity too.
You can, and the truth is, it's like,
because I'm more of a masculine girl than I am a feminine girl.
Like I said, you know, last week I said she's the type of girl you want to bring home to your man cave.
I'm definitely a bro girl at the end of the day.
Like, I feel like what happens is we have this idea of, like, what is gay, what is straight, what is man, what is woman, what is all these different things.
Yeah, and we don't always fit in this category of what society is trying to tell us.
And if we stop trying to box these things in this category, then what happens? I'll tell you straight up, you know, for years I've been doing live music. Mm-hmm. For years I've been doing live music. Right. And a majority of the band,
baby.
Yeah, literally since I was a baby. Since I was in the crib, I was singing a ga. Like, literally, there's a video of me doing it. But I remember, like, I most of my bands, like, I've always worked with, like, predominantly, especially, like, as of late, I've been working on predominantly, like, a full black band. And I remember, like, people, you know, them asking me questions, like, about my movements on stage. They were like, yo, like, are you gay? Like, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, like, I'm not. And they would be like, well, you know, when you're on stage, you do this. I'm like, why is that defined by, like, the sexuality in person? Meanwhile, every practice, and this is when I was single, every practice, you know, I had a new girlfriend who I was bringing, like, to every practice. And it was funny too, because even still, like, talking about, like, race, right, which is a big part, which is part of the worry of your story, right? Like,
yeah.
They would always ask me, like, what's it like to be white? What's it like to be white? And I used to have to be because I feel like people look at black men sometimes look at white women as being, like, the Moby Dick of things. I was gonna say vaginas, but of things, right?
That's so disrespectful to black women. It
really is. It's disrespectful, really, to all women. It's not even just disrespectful to black women, because it's high key disrespectful to black women, but it's disrespectful for all women to hold certain women of a higher standard, of a higher value than others, right? You know, as far as, like, the idea of concern of, like, putting a woman on as a prize in general, right?
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Where we should be looking at them, where we should be looking at women.
Women and men should walk along the same path.
Right, walk along the same path, and they should be of a level of equality. But I used to run into that situation all the time, and, like, and it wasn't really until I became, like, it happened in the beginning of me working with, like, my band, the band that I had at the time, and it wasn't until I got to, like, 25 that, like, I really sat there and I'm the Drew that I am now. Because I'll say, like, I used to try to function by a script, and then I realized the script didn't work for me. And so being as genuine as possible. Yeah, like, listen,
if a guy's, like, saying some, like, generic crap to me, and I'm like,
I wasn't generic. I was creative, but it was a creative script. But but that's the truth. Like, you try. Like, you, David Lynch, try. Like, you do. You really do.
Yeah.
And it happens. And I think that it's important that we really need to talk about that. Masculinity is what you make of it. Just like life is what you make of it. And I think that if we taught more that masculinity is what a person makes of it, if femininity is what a person makes of it, if we need to confine to these boxes to make it easier for people to process it and understand it, then I think that the ideas of not just consent, but the ideas of just life in general would be more blissful for people.
Yeah, because I think that there's no reason that a guy can't pop out with a feminine, outfit or whatever it is one day, and a girl can't pop out with some masculine ass outfit one day. Because I do that shit all the time.
I would rock a dress on stage.
I can rock, a dress the next day. Like, there's no reason you can't change who you are and evolve.
You look fantastic in it. She's wearing sweats right now. She looks better than I do with it. I be looking like Kanye depressed on Instagram, like when I be wearing sweats. Like, she's looking great. Like, you know what I mean? I look like I'm like pouty. You know what I mean? Shit like that.
I just feel like society is really, really, really.
You like the subcategory?
It holds you back. It holds you back from being who you truly are and like who you want to be, and you shouldn't ever let it. And then you should just, play by the rules of your own game.
But it's almost like a situation where it's like you get to a certain point when you realize that society is the ideas of society are really you, in a sense, right? Like your nurture, not your nurture, not the nature, but the nurture.
Yeah, like how you grew up.
And the erosion of the amount of people that you've met in your life. Is what really molds that idea of society in your head.
That's why the more damaged people, or not damaged, I hate that word. The more people have gone through trials and tribulations.
Let's call them experience.
Yeah, more experienced people in life.
Give you the benefit of the real benefit of saying.
Yeah, like if you're more experienced with some negative impacts in your life, you are stronger mentally. You can get through a lot more things. You are a lot more cultured in a lot of ways. Than the person that hasn't really gone through any of that things,
and then the person is trying to find like advice. Like, I mean, even though we're on a podcast and we're talking about it, but like the person that goes on Twitter and is like, oh, this person gave this beautiful like psychology advice on like, oh, the people that like talk about themselves all the time are like the worst people to get advice from. When like sometimes it's not true. We have to base ourselves based upon our life experience, right? And sometimes in order for us to truly make those connections when we really care about somebody,
you have to reference things
reference and cite that life experience. And if you don't allow somebody to cite that life experience in some type of way, like, it's not supposed to instantly link up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just supposed to be like,
we're so quick to cancel people nowadays that it's hard to express yourself in a way that you're going to be accepted. And
we are still kids.
We are still kids. We are all still kids. We are all still
learning.
learning.
The whole title into a saying, but it's true. Like we're always learning. It is a saying.
You know how many times you've said that, and I've said that in our just regular conversations, and that's why we decided to make.
Yeah, literally, like that's what happened.
We're just still kids. Like we are always learning, and you can learn from literally anybody, even somebody that hasn't had the experiences you have. There's probably something from them that you can learn from them. Like Definitely. you should never walk with a closed mind, ever.
And I think if we walked more with open minds, and if we walked more with stop trying to restrict ourselves in situations again, like we would enjoy ourselves more.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot more of a happier.
Yeah,
happier
like
life.
Don't get me wrong. I get upset sometimes. I was driving on the way here, and I was literally telling myself, I was like, I should give up, quit life, and
Please don't.
Just get into. Like, I always sit there and I say that, but like, I don't really, at the end of the day, I realize that like, this is my journey. This is, everybody has their journey.
And your journey might look different than what you think it is in your head.
And also the hardships of your journey the obstacles of your journey should never limit where the end goal and the finish line of your journey is, or the end goal of each chapter of your journey. Like, you should never let any of that hardship and stuff like get in the way of like you reaching that checkpoint, because those checkpoints are important.
I agree.
And if you let those things prolong your checkpoints, you'll never grow. And life's checkpoints are the most precious things that we have right now, especially with all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world. And like, I understand like there's survival, there's all those types of things, and we're all complicated. We are, but we all have checkpoints. And if we don't grow into those checkpoints, then it's like I said, it's like, what's the point of living if you can't feel alive? And those checkpoints are reminders that like we're alive.
Facts. I think we should leave it at that. I actually have an interesting question that doesn't have anything to do with that. It's like, how do you feel about consent in like family forms? Because I grew up in like a huge Italian family, and I was always forced to say like goodbye, hug, and kiss like random people like at these big parties and stuff like that, and I hated it. Never gave consent for it. Was just made to do it, and I feel like that is another form of like consent that we can talk about. It's like what our families put us through. There's a lot of moms nowadays that like don't allow that, like, and I love that because, you know, I feel like that definitely skewed my
especially
idea of my self-worth,
and especially in the earlier days too,
oh my god,
like, really before we really started to have like,
understand anything.
these conversations like this, because back in the day, like,
I wonder like how did your family deal with that?
I think the only thing that my parents really demanded when we were kids was that we acknowledge people by a title. But my father always reminded us that.
I agree with that.
Right. But my father always reminded us that when we become adults, like, we don't have to really acknowledge those people by like titles anymore.
Okay.
Because, and that's not to say that we didn't have respect for those people. Like,
right.
My father is my father.
Like Mr. or Mrs. you're talking about?
Yeah. But like, my father's my father. You know what I mean? Like, I call him
different.
dad because that's just, I'm used to that thing. And sometimes I do say like, James and Barry, like, yo, like, come on, let's step up the play here. Like, if you ever go out with my parents, I call my mom Barry like all the time.
You really like
sorry, but like,
screaming at the microphone.
I know this is like the loudest I'm gonna get. But as far as like other people, like, you learn that respect is. I think back in the day, respect was all about a title.
So different.
It was so much about a title, and I think nowadays respect is.
It felt like disrespectful my whole life because of that. Like, if I didn't say goodbye to every single person and hug and kiss them, even if I didn't know who the fuck they are, and I don't necessarily agree with that at all.
No.
Like,
listen, my sister does not like giving people hugs, and I have no issue.
Probably
with her
because she was forced to do so when she was younger.
Yeah, and I have no issue with her like not. Listen, I hug, and I put my arms around everybody who I love.
Me too. I'm a big hugger.
I'm an embracer.
You're an affectionate person.
I'm a very affectionate individual, right?
But how do you think that forms your idea of consent at such a young age? Because I feel like those kids growing up with the moms that are giving them the decision at such a young age, maybe 3 or 4 years old, to make the decision whether they like you or not, are going to grow up with such a better understanding of consent than we did.
I think like everything like. So there's certain things in life that like the first time that happens to you, like you have to process it. I feel as though you have to process it, right? So I feel like there's certain things in life that like the first time it happens to you, right? Like you don't know what to make of it. You don't know how to feel about it. Mm-hmm. But then that's where it's important to sort of understand the ideas of self-reflection. Like there's nothing wrong with you saying to yourself like, I didn't really like that shit. I don't want to like that shit at all. So you just kind of do a thing where you're just kind of like, you know, like the next time it comes around, like go for it. I know for me, I will never force my children to have to hug and kiss somebody.
Neither will I.
Kiss.
They
now,
can decide for that for themselves.
Right. Now,
use their own intuition.
I know, like, obviously there's certain people who I want them to have some attachment and a bond to. And I think that right. And I also think that will naturally come through from like those people. Like I know, like for Christy, like, you know, the sight of like our child one day like hugging like, you know, her mother or like my mother and my father.
It's gonna be
like,
amazing.
But like those individuals are so good at like supplying.
I'm so excited for you guys to have kids.
No, it's not happening anytime soon. But it's like. Those individuals are so good at being lovable, like in some way. And I think that it's a problem when we force people to have to hug and be, you know, even family.
That is such a
intimate with people
thing.
who aren't good at earning that love. Like, my father is so good at earning that love. Yeah. My mother is so charismatic. It has
to be reciprocated.
My girlfriend's mom is so good at earning that love, and even her dad is like charming to an extent.
Right.
So. I mean, like, and like her brother is so good at it, her sister's so good at it. Like, all the people are so good.
Yeah, because kids can feel the difference.
Yeah.
They can feel it. Like, when you hug somebody, you don't want to hug somebody. There's a difference.
I hugged my grandmother the other day, like, when we were, like, over there. Like, I hugged my grandma.
His grandma is the cutest individual.
I love my grandmother. I love her. My aunt. And I hug them all the time. But you know what the thing about it is like I didn't just hug them because I was like, okay, that's just something that I want to do. Like, you know.
I feel like every person in your family is so respectable in a way. Like, you guys just are so successful, creative, intelligent in your own different ways, and it's almost intimidating if you don't know yourself. But like, if you know yourself, like, you want to embrace everything they tell you.
You know what it is? It's the fact that, like, I think my family have gone every era, every generation, from, you know, my grandmother's generation and my parents' generation and now this generation, which is wild because I have a cousin chat with like my cousins and my siblings in it and stuff like that. And we were all literally talking about the fact that we were like, wow, we brought the generations like back to cities. Because like everybody was like in a city and then they all went to the suburbs. Yeah. Now we're all like in like major cities, right? And even on my girlfriend's side, like they're all in major cities right now.
Right.
And we were all talking about the fact that we were like, you know, it is kind of cool to sort of see like each level sort of take the good and the bad of the previous and like move on. And we all know we're gonna have faults within our situations. Like we're all gonna do it. Like we're gonna make a mistake, and that's important. That's what we talk about, like the failure and the lesson of failure. You know, we're all gonna make those mistakes, but it's like it's what you do with it. You don't want to if it's something that you know is wrong, you don't want to carry it through and carry it on, even if it validates you.
Right.
You know, it hurts somebody else, and that's where that consent comes into play because it hurts somebody else, and we need empathy.
Right.
You know, and we just talked about how like people are so afraid to find true connection with somebody because they don't it's almost like a lack of understanding of empathy, or it's an idea of thinking that empathy is specifically. I don't think
empathy can be taught. I'm gonna be honest with you.
It can't.
It's just something you have, you don't.
And you have to feel it.
You have to feel for people. You have to feel for the situation and the understanding. And like, if you're not born with that, like you can't get that. You can't learn it. I mean, that would be like the definition of a narcissist if you're trying to learn the patterns of an empathetic person. So
I mean, you can learn the definition of it. I think certain things you can know the defining features of, but you can't feel it. Empathy is a feeling.
Absolutely.
There's certain feelings that you can know, you can define what it is to be a nice guy, but you can definitely not be a nice guy.
Facts.
Girls
too.
Yeah, you can, you know, it's almost, but that goes the other way around too. It's like, you can know all the definitions of what it is to be a bad bitch, but you cannot be a bad bitch.
I think bad bitch energy is, you can teach bad bitch energy.
See, here's the truth. You can teach bad bitch energy, but true bad bitch energy has been there all along.
I feel like
it's been under the water.
Yeah, like every girl has bad bitch energy.
Out. Yeah.
It just takes somebody to help bring out that bad bitch
energy. Yeah, you know, like Danielle brings out the bad bitch energy in me. Chrissy brings out the bad bitch energy in me. I am a bad bitch. Straight up. I'm here. All right? I will drive the boat.
You feel it when he walks through the room.
Listen, I'll be singing to Nicki Minaj. I'll be like Nicki Minaj, be like, I'm a bad bitch.
We had a library. Let's slow it down with the words.
Burlington County Library knows about what it is to be a bad bitch.
I'm sure that Burlington County does.
Burlington County is pure bad bitch.
No shade.
We support them. Support your local community and local library.
I do have some funny Hinge photos.
Oh, you have more?
I do have funny. I found them last night. They are funny Hinge photos.
Oh, okay. I gotta clean my glasses. This is imagery.
He has not seen this. You're about to get like a reaction.
Oh my god.
This man, and obviously I'm gonna cover his face, even though the face is the best part of the photo. It's the best part of the photo, but I can't show it obviously. I'm gonna cover his name, but I'm gonna show you the face because he looks like a serial killer. Like, I cannot explain to you what went through his head when he posted this photo on his Hinge profile to attract women.
Oh, so we do have to do a segue of the introduction of this. So Danielle, I am not a single man, but Danielle is a single woman. And right now she's on a lot of internet dating apps right now, trying to find an individual who she can.
I'm not trying to find nobody.
I don't mean it like that. See, as soon as we say we found an individual, I'm thinking they're not purity, but like she's trying to find individuals of which she can sort of build human connections with, regardless of the thresholds of those human
Facts.
connections.
Facts. I like that.
And right now, she's having a difficult time, especially through the...
Hinge, if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast, you need
Just delete
a
it.
better algorithm, because I don't know what the heck you think my matches are, but it ain't it. It ain't it.
I'm just doing the Oprah show.
And everybody's saying, well, maybe your interests are blah, blah. These are my interests. If this is the type of guy that's into my interests, I have a problem.
Cheers to
I
that.
need to drink more.
There we go.
Because, Jesus.
Mhm. Listen, all we're saying...
This man needs Jesus because he looks like Ted Bundy. Okay?
See, you know what's crazy about that? Did you ever see the Ted Bundy documentary?
Yes, and I love it.
But
I love murder.
But the
I am that
amount-
type of girl that's home by 5 p.m. in bed by 6 and watching murder documentaries and
but
telling you
here's
that
the
I'm
thing.
not.
So I watched them too, but I'm sitting there and I'm just like, there were women that were like, Ted Bundy was so hot and so
Ew.
attractive.
Like, retract, and you want to see this version of Ted Bundy? Are you
Yes,
ready?
Ted Bundy 3.0.
Are you ready?
Yes,
I don't think you're ready.
Go ahead.
Like, what?
I don't mean to laugh, it's serious, but he either looks like Ted Bundy, like bald, or he looks like a Russian mobster. He looks like he's about to be like,
He looks like he's about to kill all the
in
women
Russia,
on
you
his
do
hinge.
not swim in oceans.
You want to see another picture of
Oceans
him?
swim
Are
in
you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm not kidding with you. This guy looks like he shoots up schools.
Yeah.
He looks like he shoots up schools.
Um.
He looks like the kind of guy to like. This guy looks like the kind of guy who like thinks of like black people as like second-class citizens.
Yeah. I was very, very scared.
And you might
Like-
not, if you're watching this, you might not, but my nigga, you do. I'm just saying.
I don't know if he's watching this, and I hope he's not, because he's scary. And honestly, like, people need to do better. Like, you need to think
He's
about
what
what
Antoine
you
Dotson
post.
thought that like was going.
Like, what was going through his head? He's on a beach. He's literally like, this is what his face looks like,
This is legit.
and this is literally what his arms are doing. And I'm like, okay, so what part of this photo makes you feel like you're gonna be attractive at all?
So did he like comment to you or anything?
He just liked my one of my photos.
Oh, he just see the last guy at least said Gorgeosaurus Rex. This
Yeah,
guy
like, he
just,
didn't say anything. He just like
the
liked
last
it.
guy at least was like that was like kind of funny.
Did you expect him to say anything?
No, I expect him to say that his children will be like the greatest pieces of the Aryan race to bring it back to the forefront of time and space.
Facts. I was.
Nothing against the Aryan
I was
race. You
genuinely
guys do make some
concerned.
beautiful children.
So we'll put a
Golden
picture
retrievers.
of him. I won't put his face.
You're
That's
not
the best part. Maybe I'll put like my face on top of his face. You know.
Can you put my face on top of his face? Just for the opposite skin tone complexions. So if
his worst nightmare.
Well, just so if he, I've always wanted a six-pack, and I guess that's it right there. At least I'd make.
Nah,
Here, you can
nah.
Photoshop this picture.
He looks like he photoshopped his 6-pack. Look at that. There's no like packs. It's just like lines.
This is
Anyway.
the most bird-chested dude I've ever seen in
You
my
want
entire
to see another one? Okay, there's one more. There's one more. And this man looks like he came straight out of a JCPenney commercial. And,
It's a different guy.
yeah. And this man literally has like professional headshots like on his hinge. But he looks
Oh, he's
literally
an
like he's
actor.
wearing like an Old Navy jeans commercial or like JCPenney's commercial.
Oh
and
my god.
Or he looks like a 90s rocker Chinese man.
Okay. I don't have
Okay.
any. Please.
Are we
tell me.
ready?
Yeah, go ahead. He looks like he's auditioning to be Robin.
Facts.
He looks like. Why is he with an easel?
Why does he look like a lost boy from?
Oh, I thought that
Your
was
fan.
I thought that was an easel until like I thought he was pulling like a Bob Ross, like type of deal. And there's a little birdie. There's a little birdie right there.
Like,
there's a little birdie.
I know
right there.
I am not like the best person on Hinge either, but like at least my photos
you
make
have a really
sense.
good Hinge profile. I don't know what you're talking about. It's
I
pretty,
think it's okay, but I
you're
think
a
it's
gorgeous
thought
Source
out.
Rex.
I think it's thought out. Like I really do, and I just feel like people don't think before they post things.
I mean, this guy looks like he could really paint a nice self-portrait of you, though.
Mm-hmm.
But he also
Or
looks like,
work for an Old Navy commercial or just spinning. You
Listen.
know the ones where they're like jumping in the air like in slow motion. It's literally what he looks like. But anyway, both of those photos were put on the screen so that you can judge yourself. I don't know if anybody else runs
Can you
into
Photoshop
this
our? She's gonna Photoshop our faces over it, so it's okay.
Yeah, I just don't know if anyone else runs into these issues. I feel like Hinge just doesn't get me. And
I said women have the best.
I don't understand the algorithm. I mean, like I'm genuinely concerned.
Listen, as I said the last time, and I'll say it this time. What the fuck is that?
Facts. We need to get a T-shirt with that on it.
That if you want to get with this whole podcast, we haven't said anything about liking and subscribing. But if you want a "What the fuck is that" T-shirt from We Are Still Kids, please let us know. Let us know in the comments below and stuff like that. We want to know. We want you to subscribe. We want to have guests. So if you have a suggestion of like guests and stuff you want to bring in, not anybody from the Hinge. I'm not bringing any of these Hinge people on here.
That would be hilarious.
Actually, though, can we bring the first guy on here?
I already said X. I already X'd him out.
Oh, the second guy, did you say X to him?
I X'd him all out.
Oh my God, Jesus. It's just a missed opportunity to interview.
I'll start answering to like random weird ones to see if they like want to interview.
Don't do that. We're not trying. This isn't like Hinge Chris Hansen.
Yo.
What were you doing here tonight?
Yo, that's so funny. But anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed some of the comic relief from our. I hope some people really enjoyed the comic relief from the heavier topics that we were talking about. It is super important to advocate for yourself and take what we did and learn from that. And really, if you need like confidence or you need anything or you need somebody to talk to, my DMs are open at all times. You can always call, text, whatever, email, and we'll always answer you. We have some really good life advice. Me and Drew have been through some shit in our really fucking
clearly have
small ass lives.
Laughing about it
and
not at the same time.
Yeah, it's really cynical.
I've cried.
I have a lot.
Yeah.
So I've been there and done that,
so
and I can definitely
text.
help people, and I want to help. Like I feel like that's what some good things come out of these bad situations is like the ability to advocate for them and like really be the change in the situation. And
and remember, like obviously, like I said before, like and subscribe below.
Facts.
We
hit that notification bell if you want to hear
exactly. And let us know like what can we bring to the table more so on. Facts. We Are Still Kids.
Yeah. Give us some of your situations. DM us some of your situations that you wouldn't mind us sharing. Also on Anchor, become a listener. Like not just YouTube, become a listener on Anchor and
follow all of our profiles. We're on every format.
We are on Instagram pretty heavily. Not so much Twitter, because somebody's slacking.
Okay, listen. Somebody works overnight, and also I'm like, if anybody knows, like I'm trying to look for a new job, and I'm pretty sure you understand the pain.
This is your job.